Oh my God, we are back for another episode of Grindhouse Chic. As always, I am Robert Schneider, and I am joined by my main man in Cleveland, Matt Armstrong, and my main man in Knoxville,
Knoxville.
Brian Baldwin. Brian, fun fact: Knoxville, Tennessee, was the first city I ever ate Waffle House in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know what? For a northerner, it's a rite of passage. It's a rite of passage.
No, I can't lie. I love Waffle House. I love it. I don't eat there very often for obvious reasons,
but when you do, you get it scattered, covered, and smothered, right?
and shit on, buddy. Yeah, I love it.
Well, you shit out. Shit out is the more accurate word. Let's talk about something that's a rite of passage of every Vinegar Syndrome fan. The halfway to Black Friday reveals. This year we got Thriller in 4K with they call her One Eye on One 4K disc, and the now 4-minute longer version than what Synapse put out on 4K as well. We also have Cloak and Dagger and Miami Connection. What are your guys' thoughts?
I'm mostly excited about Miami Connection personally. It was really weird how this one timed out, So, as you guys know, I haven't really been focusing on buying a lot of movies right now and stuff, trying to get some money saved up. So I haven't really been paying a whole lot of attention to what's coming out. Obviously I was going to look to see what Vinegar Syndrome was going to release and everything for May. But I didn't know, had that one been teased or anything, or had it even been revealed that they were going to release it? Because the timing was really weird. Literally the day before their announcements, I just so happened to be thinking about that Alamo Drafthouse Blue release, that they put out. I was like, I wonder what the
it was Drafthouse Films that put it out.
Or Drafthouse, I'm sorry, yeah. But anyway, so I was looking at the going rate for it on eBay and stuff. I was like, holy smokes, that's expensive. And I chuckled so hard, because literally the very next day I was like, oh, let me see what they ended up releasing. I'm like, oh, well, fuck me, there it is. I don't have to pay aftermarket prices. So that was exciting.
I'm very glad that they are releasing Miami Connection. It's been out of print for a while. It's a movie that if you don't own it, you need to own it. But I don't think I was in much of a hurry to upgrade it. And while this version seems like the definitive version with yet a different cut of the movie, which I'm excited to watch, I think I've reached this point in where I'm worried that Vinegar Syndrome is simply now going to be the company that I get better versions of movies that I owned that I might not have really loved. Schizoid and X-Ray are okay movies, but I never...
Hey, Robert, I'm sorry to do this. I literally have an emergency. I'm so sorry. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Okay.
Well, that has never happened to us before, midstream emergency, as I'm going on my diatribe about Miami Connection. No, but I just didn't feel I didn't feel X-Ray or Schizoid were movies I ever needed to upgrade. Same thing with The Lamp or The Offering. It's like, and while I am kind of sort of looking forward to the definitive version of Thriller and seen Synapse taken down a peg, but I don't know. I'm just when I started collecting Vinegar Syndrome, it was the fact that most of the movies were movies that I have never seen or never, in some cases, never even heard of.
Right.
And I'm worried that is going to be going away.
Yeah, you kind of touched on that last week when, we were worried about if they were just going to start releasing things that everyone else has already released. And maybe that's kind of, a little turn in their motivation to sell. Maybe it's, maybe they started as, we're selling to a specific group of people who, want these movies that have never been out, these obscure movies, but we've reached all those people. Now we want to kind of move on to, people who have seen some movies and get them to upgrade their stuff. And then, maybe it'll go further than that and they start doing more, mainstream stuff, which I hope they don't. But
Well, with more of the mainstream labels cutting back on what they release and probably realizing it's more lucrative to license it out,
mm-hmm.
we're gonna. I mean, I think we're gonna see more mainstream stuff. Like again, Reform Schoolgirls, I believe was MGM when it came out, or they released it initially. So we're already getting that, and like, I'm excited that people are excited about Cloak and Dagger. I think I've seen that movie once or twice on HBO. I have no emotional connection to it, but I think if that is what they use the VSU line for, are the movies that played heavily on cable that you loved growing up, then I'm okay with that to be the label that gets people into Vinegar Syndrome.
Right.
And I gotta tell you, I just find it really weird that Cloak and Dagger, which I remember being like a very wholesome-ish movie, is coming out the same day as Thriller: A Cruel Picture, which for all intents and purposes is a hardcore film.
Yeah. When the hints first came out for these releases, everything that I was seeing was saying, it's either Cloak and Dagger or Joysticks, and I never saw Joysticks. I saw Cloak and Dagger a long time ago, but I watched the trailer for Joysticks and I was like, oh, that definitely looks like something Vinegar Syndrome would put out. That's like Vinegar Syndrome right there. And then it ended up being Cloak and Dagger. It's kind of like I feel like the other one fit a lot more, but maybe you're right. Maybe it is they're going for that niche of stuff you watched growing up heavily.
I mean, think about it. Nostalgia is the greatest drug in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been watching a lot of clips of pawn show called Pawn Stores on YouTube, and I see people bring stuff in that I played with as a kid, and they're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm sitting there going, you know what? I could spend $2,000 to own that again. I'm lucky I stopped myself from doing stuff like that, but I mean, nostalgia is the greatest drug, and if you grew up loving Cloak and Dagger and you're going to be able to get it in its most definitive version, great. You're going to own an amazing movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish I had an emotional connection to it like I did with Rad. And the Beastmaster.
Right. Yeah, Beastmaster was the first one that got me into it.
But all right, when you were a kid and you first saw Beastmaster, did you like it?
I did. I think it was probably one of the fantasy movies that I watched as a kid that may have seemed a little more boring than the others, but I was really into it, and I even remember watching it like coming out of being a kid and just thinking, man, this is like so hokey. I really like this. So then when I saw they were putting it out, I was like, oh, I've never heard of this company, but I want to get that.
I didn't realize that Beastmaster was your gateway drug, to Vinegar Syndrome.
Out of all these movies, Beastmaster.
But I mean, as they joke about in the documentary, HBO once stood for "Hey, Beastmaster's on," and I mean, same thing with TBS. They played Beastmaster and Beastmaster 2 all the time, which I prefer Beastmaster 2 to the first one because it has Kari Wurr in it, and they go to a shopping mall. That was more relatable to me than the first one, which was so fucking hokey. But I was
surprised with so many 4Ks, though.
Yeah, I mean, Thriller and Miami Connection. I think Miami Connection by far is one of the most fun movies you can experience. It just needs to be you need to watch it with friends.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Are you excited at all about the drive-in coming back?
So
that seems like a no.
So I am excited. I'm not excited about the two movies that they chose. I'm not a fan of Horror High. I think I didn't like it when I was. I'll rephrase it. I was so excited when Code Red put the DVD out that there was a record store that I would go to in Seattle that had an amazing video selection, and they carried all the boutique stuff. They had Horror High. I bought it, and cause I remember watching as a kid, and then watching the DVD, and I'm like, what the fudge was I thinking? and I'm not a fan of Stanley. I think it's a mediocre film.
Yeah.
And I was suckered into buying the It Came from the Swamp box set from Arrow, which if I sold any of my stuff, that would be one of the ones that I would sell because it's just terrible. So, Brian, I hope your emergency worked out. We were talking about, as you know, all of the partner label stuff, and I was going in how it feels like I am not excited about this year's selection for the halfway sale because it feels like double dips.
I mean, I guess it's just one of the. Well, I was going to say it's fortunate for me, which I suppose it is, but I don't know. It's weird wording on my part. I apologize. I don't have any of them yet. So for me, the only one they've released so far for me that I've already owned was Schizoid. So,
well, hold you owned X-Ray as well because that was a double feature from the show.
Yeah. That's the only one I've already previously owned. So for me, they're all going to be new to my shelf. So I'm pretty excited. And I do apologize for having to.
Oh, no worries.
Dip out like that. I didn't mean to alarm anyone. My cat, its head fell off, and I just. I've never seen that before.
Look, Matt and I prayed for you for 5 minutes while you were gone. We just prayed.
Hey, well, thank you. Yeah. I could feel the positive energy.
Thank you. So, what do you guys think the two mystery releases are?
I'm never good at guessing this shit.
Yeah, me neither.
And I'm like, so I don't even try anymore. I'm just going to let them surprise me, and I'll be happy.
It kind of seemed like everyone was on board with the first one being what is it, Slaughter? I can't remember what they were saying.
I don't know. I haven't been paying attention. All I know is the running gag with us is Soul Man's the other movie.
Yes. 100% is.
I couldn't believe that. So when I seen that, I sent Matt a picture of the VHS yesterday. I was shopping around. I'm like, oh my God, there it is in the flesh.
I don't. Have you guys seen Soul Man?
I haven't seen it. No.
Many times. Too many times, some would say.
There's a reason why that movie hasn't been readily available.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty outdated, I guess is maybe the word. From what I've heard, right? Like
it's a last gasp at something that never should have been done. Okay. I mean, it was in bad taste when it was released, and
that's the word I was looking at. Not outdated. Racism never should. Okay, let's not go down that one.
Yeah, don't get canceled, Brian. Don't get canceled.
Oh no, it's something like that. I just
yeah.
What?
No, it's a tricky movie. It's also not a very good movie.
Yeah.
And you could say in some ways it pretty much killed C. Thomas Howell's career momentum at that time.
But it really just picked things up for Leslie Nielsen.
I think Leslie Nielsen was already in the midst of his airplane renaissance.
Yeah.
But no, I would be very disappointed if Vinegar Syndrome released that.
Yeah. I don't think it'll ever happen, but just I always have it in my head, and reading that little hint, I was like, oh, that kind of fits.
It does fit in that, and that's what scares me.
Yeah. The other one everyone's thinking is Scared to Death for the other clue from William Malone, who did Creature.
You know what? If that's the case, I will love to see it because I loved Creature.
Mm-hmm.
Creature was such a fun movie. And it's weird that you could say that you could see Klaus Kinski had fun making that one.
Uh-huh.
speaking of a movie that's fun, let's talk about Death Row Game Show. All right, I'm just going to ask this plain and simple. Did any of you did you hear about that movie before it was released or before you purchased it from Vinegar Syndrome?
Not for me, no.
No.
Yeah, same here. I'd never heard of it. I was intrigued by the name, and
Excuse me.
this is my synopsis of the movie without spoiling anything. It was made by someone who saw The Running Man or read The Running Man and said, I can do a better version of this.
It's fair.
And what we got was probably one of the lowest. This film went to the lowest common denominator. It tried to be a comedy, but the writing was so bad and the jokes were so basic that it felt like, for me, it felt like I was watching a fascinating train wreck of someone trying to make a movie as they went along, and I simultaneously love this movie and hate it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I don't know which came first, but I feel like it was kind of in the same vein as like what were they, the Hot Shots and like the Loaded Weapon, the National Lampoon kind of stuff.
Yes.
There were moments where I thought that they pulled off comedy pretty well, but overall it seems like they were trying to go for like a gag and didn't pull it off.
Again, some of the jokes though, like I look at some of the jokes on there and I am going, if you just thought about this a little bit more, you would have had something extremely. You would have had a really interesting cult movie instead of one that just plodded along. But here's the thing: it was so fucking ridiculous. In the hour and 22-minute running time, I was never bored during this movie.
Yeah,
and the characters
You were never bored? Is that what you said?
I was never bored. No, this is one of those movies I could have I wished for a little bit more time with some of these characters, especially.
Boy, we have switched places from last week. I'll tell you that.
No, yeah, but look, I will say the performance of Bino as Luigi was a tour de force, and John McCafferty I thought was really good as well, but for the most part, though, just a movie that I think worked by accident.
Yeah, I wrote down very little while watching this because I was actually like pretty into it. But one of the things that I wrote down was for a movie that I've never seen and did not expect to, I didn't know what to expect going into it, kind of. I feel like the opening scene of the movie was one of the like greatest opening scenes I've seen that like gets you geared into what you're about to see. I thought that, just seeing the whole audience crazed over this game show and seeing like the man's family in the audience, like, yeah, win us $1,000 if your head lands up. And I just thought it was like, okay, it's going to be this kind of ride, and I'm for it.
my favorite part during that sequence are when the judges come and look over it, and one of them is just smoking a cigarette, and then they just give the thumbs up. I really wanted them to see the head, but I know for budget constraints we couldn't.
Yeah. I think my favorite part during that whole scene is whenever they're showing the movie clip, and it's like a mummy movie that they're showing. I think it says Curse of the Mummy or whatever they call it.
It is Curse of the Mummy.
And
yes.
Yeah, and the whole scene is hysterical because it's this mummy coming around this tree, to attack this girl, and the girl just simply runs away. And then the mummy starts like, God damn it, fuck, like it didn't catch the girl. That literally got like a legitimate, really hearty laugh out of me. Unfortunately, that was it. The rest of the movie, I just every now and then I'd do like a, one of those. And I'm not saying that in the way of like I hated this movie. I don't hate it. I remember when I first watched this, I remember having such a fun experience, and I don't know why it just didn't deliver for me on a rewatch. I just, like you said, was such a, what you say, an hour and 22 minutes.
Yep.
For whatever reason, it felt so much longer than that for me. And I found myself even having moments where I was fighting sleep. I'm really selling this one, aren't
I? I was lucky. I watched this yesterday in the late morning or early afternoon, and I started watching Godfather Part 2, and I was really bored. Like, it was too early to watch that, so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put in Death Row Gameshow because I had to record my other. I had time to kill before recording my other podcast, and I Don't Want to Be Friends with You, which you can find on Spotify as ASAD. We got to get the name changed, but that's enough about that. I then put this movie in, and I just was like, for a late morning, early afternoon movie, I enjoyed it. It was, again, it was that dumb thing I needed to watch. And this movie is dumb, but it also has some of my favorite sequences. Like, every time the guy was driving around and people just pulling up, telling him that, oh, I watched your show for the last 2 years. You're a motherfucker. And then he rolls up his window, blow it out your ass. I'm like,
yeah,
this is some clever stuff. And I wish the movie told me more about the world, like how they even got this show on the air. I mean, K-Sick certainly lived up to its name. But there were some really funny moments in there, like when he woke up, parallel to the boobs, and the girl going, "You think you get my boyfriend on the show? He's doing something to life for murder."
65 to life, I think, or something like that.
I just thought that was really. I thought that was really funny, and then when the mobster brought his mother in to get on that one game show, and then she was dressed up as a prisoner, you could see from a mile away where this was going to lead to.
Yeah.
But again, it's a movie I liked and hated at the same time. I hated because the filmmaking was so fucking bad on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see why Mark Perro did not go very far as a director.
I was actually just about to ask if he had done anything else. I hadn't looked him up or anything.
He just has done a lot of bad horror movies, it looks like.
Oh, okay.
It looks like he's still making them. But I think of all the movies we watched. Hold on for 1 second. I think of all the movies we watched. This one, even though I don't really like it, I mean, I feel hypocritical. I like it and I don't like it. This is a film that to me represents what Vinegar Syndrome is. Pulling obscure movies out of their collective asses to release, and hopefully the people who buy them like them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, unless the two mystery titles for the halfway sale are comparable to this, again, I do think, I don't know, I think I'll become more of a fan of some of the other labels now because they're releasing the stuff that VS would have released back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I could see that.
What do you guys think was the worst sequence in this movie?
There wasn't. Let me say that I did not think this was like a good movie per se, but there was not a part that I didn't like. You know, I know you guys said that you were like getting kind of bored and stuff, but I was like, this is one of the movies that I wrote the least amount down. I was just kind of absorbed into it. Yeah, I can't think of the worst for me.
The one I thought that, which this may have been an intentional approach. I'm not really sure, but the whole thing where he's at the crosswalk for slow children. I mean, they really. It's like. I don't know. It's funny because you pull up and you see the kids walking slow. It looks like a slow motion shot scene, right? And then it pans out and you see the sign for slow children, but then it just kind of like lingers there for what I felt like entirely too long. Where it's like, okay, we get it, but it almost felt like they're like, we'll give them just a few more minutes to see if they can figure out. It's like what? Like it's fucking plain as day. It's right there. Just move on. But it's just. To me, it felt like it sat there for entirely too long to try to drive home a point that was very obviously made. Yeah. But that was one that kind of drove me nuts.
Brian, I'm interested you mentioned the first time I watched the movie, I thought that was going to be the twist of the show, was where the host was going to be accidentally run over one of those kids and then end up a contestant on Death Row Gameshow.
See, that would have been pretty clever. I like that idea.
That's because I'm a better writer than the guy who wrote and directed this movie.
Well, I mean, I have to say, I mean, if you were just to explain this movie to someone, it sounds like it would be so intriguing, right? Like it's a slapstick comedy about a game show called Live or Die, where people on death row are a part of a game show. Like, it's all there. It just, I don't even want to say this movie felt like lazy to me or anything. It I don't know, would incompetently made be accurate for you guys? Would you agree with that? It just again, it could just be what you said, Robert. Just maybe the writing just suffered too much. Like they thought they were onto something, and I don't know.
Yeah. As Squid Game has shown us, they were onto a huge concept here. They just didn't have the budget or the writing skills and the directing skills to actually pull this movie off. If someone were to take the premise of Death Row Game Show today and remake it, not only would it be a very different movie, it would be I think it would be a blockbuster film.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
I'm glad, Matt, that you mentioned Hot Shots as well, because that's the first thing that I thought of when I was watching this. And I do ultimately, like, I have to admit that comedy has pretty much always been my least favorite genre. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but
especially to me.
Yeah. Well,
ouch.
I guess I'm just picky. I don't know. But anyway, that's going to make this sound even weirder. But I think Hot Shots is a goddamn masterpiece. And I do, I miss that style of slapstick comedy, because it just doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So in that extent, there was a little bit of fun for me. You kind of like nostalgia feeling when watching this, of like, oh man, I miss, when movies like this were being made.
Right.
Where it's just so absurd and so over the top silly that, it's almost like you're just, I don't know, like laughing just because, they're doing that stupid shit. That's funny. I don't know. Like the whole scene where him and oh God, I can't remember exactly what was going on, but there's that whole thing where he's like screaming in the camera and the guy beside him starts screaming. They look at each other and they're screaming. Like that whole little scene to me, I was like, oh, that's it's just so stupid that you can't help but kind of chuckle with it.
Yeah. I thought the crazy guy who was trying to get on the show was an interesting character, and I'm glad they used him as a way to wrap up the plot. But man, that guy could have actually just gone out and murdered somebody and just got on the show. Obviously, he didn't want to get on it bad enough.
So I had this conversation with my wife about this movie. She didn't watch it. Um, but I was explaining to her the concept of it, and after watching it, or do you see yourself more on the side of what was the game show host's name? Chuck?
Yeah.
Which I found funny that his name was Chuck. Do you find yourself more on his side where it's like, these people are already on death row, I'm giving them a way out? Or do you find yourself on the side of, I guess everyone else who was saying like, this is important, like this needs to stop kind of deal?
As someone who thinks the death penalty is unjust,
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie, with how many inmates they say are actually on death row, especially in the state of California, where I think this movie took place, the show would have the lifespan of probably a month, if that.
Yeah.
There
aren't that many death row inmates.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm one of those as well. I'm completely opposed to the death penalty. So yeah, I would have to side with all the other lunatics,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But here's the thing: it was fun. It also had a catchy mnemonic that just went out through the entire movie. The theme of Death Row Game Show. I don't understand how Vinegar Syndrome has not released that as a 7-inch single.
Mm-hmm.
Or put it out for free download.
Yeah, what was the other movie we did where the it had a really catchy little tune to it? This one definitely took over as first place on it, but was it Candy Snatchers?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I haven't watched that one in so long. I can't really remember.
I
have a pretty unpopular opinion on Candy Snatchers, actually.
Yeah, really, you know what? That movie is Grindhouse Chic approved.
Yeah,
I really do need to rewatch it because it's been so long since I've seen it. Now I'll give that one a go here soon.
It's so much fun. All right,
have you guys discussed that one yet?
We have early. That was one of our first episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go watch that.
I think we've said all that we can about Death Row Game Show. How many dead inmates would you give this one, Brian?
Again, I know I wasn't the hugest fan of it, but there is a nice little feeling, like a throwback, like I said, for me to days of when comedy was a little different. I would say for those reasons alone, I would probably go 2.5 maybe on this one.
Okay.
It's a good background movie, I think.
I think it's the kind of movie, if you have people over and you want to say, hey, do you guys want to see something really stupid? They'll go, you just put this one on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Matt, how many dead inmates would you give this one?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think it's a perfect hanging out with people, throw on, have a couple beers, watch it, and laugh kind of movie. And I was going to say that it kind of reminded me a little bit of. I just recently watched Bamboozled, the Spike Lee movie.
It's a good film.
And this kind of gave me little glimpses of that much better movie where, it's where the audience becomes like so crazed with something that's obviously wrong. And I really like that aspect of it. I think it speaks a lot. But in this movie, much less well made. There was a lot going on that I did not like, but I thought the comedy took me back to a place, like Brian said, where, I kind of missed that stuff. So I'm going to give it I'll go 2.5 also.
I'm going to go 3 because the movie did make me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, because I equally love it and hate it. And here's the thing. I don't think, for the most part, I don't think the acting was... I think the acting was okay. I mean, the guy who was Chuck, I thought was great. Bino as the mobster was phenomenal. But I think the best actor in this movie was the woman, like the Vanna White on the show. When she was in jail, she was constantly making...
I forgot about her. She was really funny. Yeah, that's a good point to make.
And it was the little details like that, like the secretary is the one writing the graffiti about the host.
Yeah.
Just the way she casually or subtly moved the Sharpie to another part of their desk. And I think the director was more into that stuff than the actual movie, because that was the stuff that put a smile on my face.
I really, really liked all the commercials too.
I wish there were more.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that he actually made the Curse of the Mummy movie just as a short, and that was it. And maybe it was because there were shorts on the disc that I did not watch because
maybe.
I had more important things to do. So if you guys were playing a double feature with Death Row Gameshow, what movie would you put with it?
I'd probably do either. I know it's already been mentioned a couple of times. So I hate to be like redundant or repetitive, but Hot Shots, Airplane would be fun with it. Something that in that vein that is funnier.
Yeah, but both those movies are better examples than this movie of this style of humor.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I was gonna say something like Running Man. There's when you just asked the question, some movie flashed into my mind that I remember being similar to this, where you're kind of like playing for your life, and I can't think of what it was, but whatever that movie is would be a good double feature.
Oh, the Hunger Games. Turkey Shoot. That would be fun.
Actually, Turkey Shoot would be a good one, but my double feature would be bad comedies. I would put this with Wacko.
Oh, okay.
Not Pandemonium, because Pandemonium would be too good to play with either one of those films. So before we end today's episode, this past Thursday I got to do something pretty freaking cool. I got to go see New York Ninja with a packed crowd, and I got to go with a friend. Some other friends were going to go, but they stupidly did not buy tickets ahead of time, and this theater only has seats about 20, 25 people in it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And I wish I stayed for the I wish I bought a ticket for the second feature, which is the AGFA Teenage Zombies movie. And because the audience, everyone else basically stayed except for me and my friend, and everyone in there was a fan. Let me rephrase it. Most everyone there was a fan of Vinegar Syndrome, because when they played the trailer for The Mothers, just the whole place exploded. And I think today I'm going to go watch The Mothers instead of doing a comedy show tonight. But no, it just felt good that people, like, there were parts of that movie that I didn't laugh at when I watched it at home, but the audience was roaring in laughter, and it made me realize, first of all, how big of an audience that these movies have, and it makes me wish that more places would show them.
Oh yeah,
because I think when they show Death Promise there next month, it's going to be a great night of film. Just because.
Go ahead.
Oh, just because, I mean, Death Promise is such a great movie that I think that might be one of my favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases, period.
I was just gonna say, was the response like pretty overwhelmingly positive in there with everyone?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the only thing that sucked about it is they do an intermission there, because again the theater is so small and they make their money probably on the booze they sell. Right. Is that they have people go downstairs to buy more booze during that time. But I wish my friend got there so late that because he couldn't find a parking spot in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood of DC, that we only sat in the uncomfortable seats. Like there was a gigantic couch that I would have loved to have laid down on while watching it. But
that's one we haven't talked about yet. We still need to do that one.
Well, I was going to make a suggestion for next week because I know it'll bring a very interesting conversation about how much I feel of my opinions on the movie. But I think it's time for us to talk about Dead Heat.
Ooh, all that praying we did earlier worked. That's
Brian.
what I was praying for.
I just think it's time for me to go on my Joe Piscopo rant. And this might be the venue to do it. But going back to New York Ninja, what I will tell you, the only thing that irritated me was that people left during the credits and did not stay around for the ninja rap.
Oh.
I'm like, that is like the icing on the cake of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But like my friend who had never seen it before was like, thought the movie was amazing. The fact that Vinegar Syndrome could make a movie out of nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that I hope that they do more of.
Well,
That's kind of what I thought the VSP line would primarily be, but it seems that as though that is not the case.
I do wonder what the next VSP release is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea, and with the exception of New York Ninja, Utopia released the Scary of 61st and Censor, or no, Magnet released Censor, so it's not like they're going to be theatrically releasing those films.
Right.
All right, so let me ask you this before we conclude. Brian, I'll go with you first. If you could see any Vinegar Syndrome movie in the theater, which one would it be?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I've been lucky enough to see a couple.
Which ones have you seen?
I've seen Tammy and the T-Rex, The Uninvited, and I feel like there's been a couple more, but I can't remember those two for sure. Damn. Matt, if you know one off the top of your head, go ahead. I might need to stew on this one for a second.
I've got a couple that I think maybe just because I'm a little younger than you, Robert, I just never had the experience to, but I think it would be really cool to see any of the Rudy Ray Moores in a theater, kind of like in the same setup that you just saw New York Ninja. I think that would be really cool. Obviously Beastmaster. I've always just seen it in my living room as a kid on a little crappy TV.
I'm sorry. I think that's the way Beastmaster was intended. Did it actually get a theatrical release?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I was a kid when it came out too, and it was just HBO and HBO and then TBS.
And I think of the movies that we've covered, I think it'd be really cool to see Fade to Black in a theater.
I would love to see Fade to Black in the theater.
Yeah.
With a double feature with Creature from the Black Lagoon, or any movie that's referenced in there.
Yeah.
Liquid Sky would be kind of fun, I think, just to see the reactions, if any, off the people.
I have seen Liquid Sky, not in a theater, but in like an underground cinema group. They would play it like they played it in an old warehouse. And if any of you are in the Kansas City area, these folks are now running the Stray Cat Cinema. I suggest you go check it out because they are showing a lot of great movies there, and I wish I was still involved with them. But no, I think so. I'm gonna say I have seen Dolomite. I've seen Dolomite 2. I've seen Dolomite and Avenging Disco Godfather and Petey Wheatstraw in a theater with Rudy Ray Moore doing a comedy act after each film.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Was that recently or?
Oh no, this was in the early 90s.
Okay.
And he would come to the Magic Bag once or twice a year, and me and my roommate Rob and our friend Porno Bart would go see it all the time.
Porno Bart.
Porno
What's that
Bart
guy
should
doing
be.
nowadays.
He sells cars. He sells cars.
Okay. Does he want to talk about one of these Rudy Ray Moore movies with us?
You know what? I will ask. I will ask him. He wanted to write a film called Son of Dolomite, where he was Dolomite, the son of Dolomite, because in all the movies, Dolomite had sex with at least one white woman. And I'm pretty sure Dolomite did not practice safe sex, so he probably had lots of sons of Dolomite.
Yeah, he could have, yeah.
But I thought it was really cool to be able to see him live 3 times, even though it was the same act pretty much all the time, and it wasn't as cool as the act as he did at the opening of The Human Tornado.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But
what about yours?
I think I would love to see Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Ooh, yeah.
And this one would be a perfect double bill with Miami Connection, Death Machines.
Mm.
And Death Promise, which I'm going to see next month. But yeah, those are the movies I would love to see theatrically. And I have seen at the Sidewalk Film Festival in Birmingham, Alabama. They showed Miami Connection. Got to see it with a whole bunch of people, and it was so much fun. And
Nice.
Again, if you haven't seen that movie or are on the fence about buying it, do yourself a favor. That one's going to sell out. And if I had to guess, based on the features, it might be the Vinegar Syndrome release of the year, or at least the halfway to Black Friday sale.
Nice. I'm gonna ask you this to benefit myself, but hopefully it'll benefit a lot of other people too. What's the best way to kind of get on the radar of all these like film festivals? Because I would love to be able to see some of these movies, not sitting on my couch in my living room.
I think the best film festival to consider going to would be Fantastic Fest.
Okay.
In Austin. It's the best genre, in my opinion, the best genre film festival. And that's, Alamo Drafthouse. I think it's in September every year.
Awesome. Okay.
I'd consider going this year if I'm not dead. And there's no nuclear war. All right. Before we, sorry, I'm letting stuff slip here. So, before we go on a down note, you guys watch anything good this week beside Death Row Gameshow?
Oh,
Things got real dark.
yeah. I'm trying to recover from that one. That hit. God, what have I watched? I know I've seen something. Oh, Wolfpack. I watched Wolfpack.
We got to talk about that in a few weeks, though.
I love that movie. It was
no spoilers.
I was already really excited about it. No spoilers. I was already really excited about it, but I'll just say it superseded my expectations.
You just spoiled your review of it.
Edit.
I got to watch Don't Go in the House from Severin. I enjoyed that twisted piece of film quite a bit.
Nice.
What about you, Matt?
I need to pick that one up.
I watched 2 pretty interesting things. First one, not Vinegar Syndrome related, but it was a kind of a documentary series on HBO called McMillions, I think it was called.
That was a very interesting case.
Yeah, kind of about just the McDonald's monopoly scam that got ran, and
worst pyramid scheme ever.
Yeah. So that was interesting. The other thing that I watched all week, which was I'd say probably the best mystery thriller of the year, is my Vinegar Syndrome package. Travel across the country, back and forth, past my house, and still not end up to me.
Are you serious?
So yeah, I was supposed to get it yesterday after they delayed it like 3 times, and I got to the point where I saw a FedEx truck drive down my street, stop in front of my house. He looked at my address, went to the back of his truck. He was back there for about 2 minutes, got back into the driver's seat and left. And then I saw that my package has now been delayed until Tuesday.
All right. Actually, let's end the show on this note. I've been seeing this a lot. Our friend Steve is currently going through this as well. His February package has gone missing in action, and from what I remember seeing yesterday, the replacement is now missing in action. Brian, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have lost most of my hair with vinegar syndrome shipping issues that I have gone against one of the best parts about being a subscriber is I didn't have to worry about paying for postage. Mm-hmm. That I am now going expedited shipping. I don't understand how every other label can get me something in a reasonable amount of time, and Vinegar Syndrome just has constant delays where FedEx Post, there is no... First of all, FedEx Post, if you call their customer service number, they won't help you with these orders because they are such low priority. And then Vinegar Syndrome wants you to wait for a set amount of time, which I understand because they don't want you to receive 2 packages, and I'm guessing they know someone will be a greedy dick and will keep both of them, meaning they're losing money. And I'm sure they're also losing money on shipping. But they need to find a better solution because this is what can turn a customer off to your product.
Mm-hmm. How do we get the petition going to get FedEx removed as their carrier? When they ship stuff out with the post office, it's lightning fast. Why can't they just do that all the time?
Because it's probably cheaper, but if you ask, they will go to UPS regular, which also can be 2 to 3 weeks of it bouncing around. Like I had a package sitting at a post office, like 40 miles from my house for a week and a half. Like no, I can handle things if they are moving through the system on their way to me. I just can't handle something if it's just sitting somewhere.
You're right.
But yeah, I wonder if they actually drop stuff off to FedEx or if FedEx comes and picks it up. And sometimes I wonder if things are just scanned improperly from the get-go, which can set your package off into the off to see the USA.
It could be. I was going to say so I live in Canton, Ohio. Robert, I know you say every single other city in Ohio every week. I don't know if it's a gag, but
yes. Yes, I'm that much of a genius.
So I saw on my tracking that the package actually went to Canton, Michigan, and they did a real quick U-turn on that one. So yeah, maybe it is just, faulty scanning or something. But at that point, it's like you got to at least notice the zip codes or something. I don't know. I'm not a postal expert, but
but here's the thing: don't get mad at Vinegar Syndrome. Don't get mad at Evie. She will do her best to make things right. Yeah, Evie is awesome.
I was going to say that as well. And if you guys are at all intrigued, there is a YouTube video that a guy put up quite a while back regarding a movie that he had ordered from Vinegar Syndrome. It seemed to be like his first order from them, but the whole movie is this dude, if I recall correctly, he's got like a dip in his mouth, and he's talking about how I waited fucking blah 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 just my time for this. I mean, sure, it looks good, but fuck them and I mean, it's funny to watch, and it also leads to some really funny comments in the comments section.
All right, we're Brian's going to send me a link so I can include a link to that video in this description.
Yeah, I'll try to track it down.
Yeah, that does it from us here at Grindhouse Chic. As always, I am Robert Schneider, and I'm with my 2 best Vinegar Syndrome friends, Matt and Brian. Yep. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week as we talk about...
Oh, he looks angry.
As we talk about...
My name's Lucy.
Vinegar Syndrome, in my opinion, the worst zombie comedy cop buddy movie ever made.
So we're not talking about Dead Heat?
We're talking about Dead Heat. And we're going to talk about how one man single-handedly ruined this movie. And I'm looking at you, Joe Piscopo. and the script suck, but there are things about this movie that I really like. So we will talk about that.
Awesome.
Treat Williams' performance and how Joe Piscopo killed his career with this movie. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you.
See ya.